Okay, before we begin talking about C++ code, I just want to show you something else. We talked about the Visual Studio and how to create a project or a solution and then add a source file or code file, the CPP file, to the solution. We also talked about the fact that these code files, the source files, the CPP files, cannot run by themselves. They have to be part of a project. Okay, so there are going to be times when, for example, when you download the programs that come with the book, I put those on Blackboard, and it's really just a folder of loose, here's the folder here, loose code files. Okay, you don't see all those other files that come with a project solution. So if you want to run these, you have to create a project and then add them to the project. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do. Remember what I said. If you just double click one of these code files, yeah, it'll open, but you're not able to run it. You see my option, my run button is grayed out. So what we have to do is, once again, begin a new project here. Okay, remember we go to File, New, Project, and we always choose the Win32 console application, and we'll just give it a generic name, Project 2. I'm putting it on the desktop. And then also remember we go to Application Settings here and choose Empty Project and then Finish. Okay, so now our next step is to get the source file into the project. And we will right click and do Add. Now if you're creating something brand new from scratch, then we would choose New Item, which is what we did in the last video. Here we're going to choose Existing Item. Okay, now I have to go looking for those, the file in question. We'll just use one of those that I put on the desktop. Okay, so here's the one that I opened before, first.cpp. We'll add it. Okay, now it's part of our project. And if I double click on it, here it is, and I can run it. Okay, remember all this. That's interesting. I'll just address that right away. You saw the program run. It was just a quick flash of the window. That's because we didn't do the pause command. That's a Visual Studio thing. You know, in your book, all those code files they're talking about, they're not really speaking specifically about the Visual Studio, Visual C++ Express. So that's why those really don't address this issue. But if you ever run your program and it's just a quick flash, that means you didn't pause the screen. So what you have to do is, you saw this in the last video, stdlib.h, okay, and then we did system pause. Okay, so that'll pause the screen so you can actually see your program running. It ran before, it ran just fine, but it was just a quick flash. There we go. Okay, so there is the code file added to the project, an existing code file added to the project. Okay, so now let's say we have two code files on the desktop here, this first one, and now there's another one that I also put here. Let's say that, okay, I'm done looking at this one. Now I'd like to look at the second one. So I'm going to add that to the project. And I want to show you this. This is a common mistake that students will make. They will, and it's an honest mistake. I'm going to right click. Now I know how to add an existing item. I'm going to find that one. This just calculates the square root of a number or something like that. And now you can see it is in the project. And then I go and try to run it. Okay, and it's telling me I have an error. And we're going to talk about errors later, but generally when it tells you you have errors, you cannot run the project. You cannot run your code. You need to address those errors. So we'll say, no, we don't want to continue. Always no at that juncture. And really this kind of error, let's see if I can find it down here. Okay, this is the error. I know this is really tricky, especially when we're beginning to try to make sense of these compiler errors, but this is a common mistake. It says main already defined. Main, they're talking about this, the main function of our program, which we'll address later when we start talking about code. But really, the problem here is that you have got two code files in your project, and you can only have one. Only one code file in your project. So, you can have a project open and just, keep adding code files to it, but there can only be one at a time. So what I would have to do if I want to run this one, the one I just added, I must remove this one. And that's just a simple right click and then remove. It's not going to delete it from my computer. It's still there, but it removed it from the project. And now I can run this and it should run just fine. And there it goes.